Welcome to Ustick Road Church of the Nazarene in Caldwell, Idaho. This is the Sunday morning service. And now your speaker, Senior Pastor Brian Dyer.
It's always hard. Last month was easier than this month. Preaching through the good guys in the Bible is easier than preaching through the bad guys of the Bible. The bad guys, I don't like to give them as much showtime. It's really not. I don't like to give up as much time to the bad guys as I do to the good guys. But I think that there's something to be learned there. I'm over in Esther chapter 3. It's a little book there in the Old Testament. Powerful messages. Brianna brought us a strong one about Esther last time she preached. Now I'm going to tell you the other side of the story. I should have brought hats. I apologize. I was going to bring hats this morning and I forgot them. So I overlooked it. So I'll just get volunteers and I'll just explain to you the story because it's so much fun to walk through. Okay? So let's, Greg, come on up. You look very kingly today. Come on up here. This is King Xerxes. Welcome him to our stage here this morning, friends. And he's got a wife who is the hottest babe in the kingdom. And that's got to be Nancy. Come on, Nancy. So he's got his wife she's just gorgeous. And so he's got a party going on with his friends, but she's not. Don't hang over there with him. You're over here right now. She was not with him. He's there showing off of all the guys are, and he's talking trash. You know how you can get away with saying so much more when your wife is not around. That's what he's doing. And so he's got this party going on with his friends, and he says, "Wait a minute, guys, you got to see my wife. She is so good looking." And he sends a messenger, says, "Hey, tell Queen Vashti come in here and strut for a little while, so everybody can see how pretty she is." And Queen Vashti says, "Take a hike, you bonehead," as any wife would do. She says, "I'm not, I'm this gorgeous. I'm not a trophy wife. There's more to me than that, and I'm not coming in here to strut before you." So the king gets all bent out of shape. He gets talked about that. "Go sit down, Queen Vashti." Yeah, he gets miffed. So he calls together some of his friends and he says, "Guys, what are we going to do? The queen, I summoned her in here. She didn't come in." And his friend said, "King, you can't allow that. You let that go. You're the king. You're the king. Your wife can't talk to you like that. Do you know what's going to happen? If you let your wife talk to you like that, all of our wives are going to start talking to you like that." That's what he says. That's biblical. You've got to shut them down. And it's got to start with you. You can't let her get away with talking to you like that. So the king puffs himself up. He mans up. "Get out, Queen Vashti! I'm never going to see you again." So then he has on a search. Man, I got to find the next most beautiful woman. So he has this quest. He goes out for her. I shouldn't call. Should I call Brian Sluter? Yeah. No, we'll get Matt. Matt, come on up. Yeah. So he says, he goes on this quest, and Esther, this gorgeous, beautiful girl, this Jewish girl who's in the kingdom, she's so pretty, and he's got all of these women that they're looking for, and he says, she's got to have Mordecai. We need a Mordecai. Yeah, go ahead, you can come up, and Gabriel will take you. Her relative Mordecai says, "Esther, you got to get in there. You're such a babe. You'll win for sure." And so she goes in and she struts before the king. Come on, strut your stuff before the king. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. He can't resist her. She's too pretty. That's it. He wins her right now. She becomes the new queen because she is so gorgeous. So Mordecai's proud of her. He's proud of her. Now, this is all the story so far is wonderful. But now we get Brian Sluter. Enter the bad guy. Come on, Brian. Yeah, we need a Haman. Oh, boo him, boo! Haman. Haman is the king's right-hand man. You come over here by the king for now. There's the king. And so Haman is full of himself. Man, he knows he's all that. And so when he goes out walking around and he's being his Haman self, he walks by Mordecai. Mordecai sees him. Now Mordecai's a man of God. He's a man of integrity who serves only one God, and he bows his head to no man. He's not going to bow down before somebody who's not God. He knows better than this. He's devout in his faith, and he's solid in it. So when this man comes by, he doesn't show him any disrespect. He shows him the respect that a man is due, but he doesn't show him the respect that God is due. And Haman can't take it. He gets mad. I hate that guy. That Jewish guy. He never bows his head to me. He gets so mad at Haman. He gets so mad at Mordecai. I can't stand him. He just gets all worked up about it. And he starts plotting how he's going to get rid of that nasty Mordecai who won't bow down to him. He starts thinking, how am I going to get him? And so then he goes to the king. Now there's a lot of story here that I'm not giving you. There's a plot against the king. There's a plot against the king. And Mordecai finds out about it. So Mordecai sends word to his beautiful little niece there. And he says, go tell the king. There's some people plotting to get him. So she takes the message. Mordecai found these guys who are trying to kill him. So the king finds out that his life is in danger and his life is spared because of Mordecai. How about that? That's pretty impressive. So Mordecai is in the king's good standing because of that. But he's not in Haman's good standing because he won't bow down. You see where the tension's coming in, don't you? So Haman he's so sick of that guy. He's so mad at him. He's just thinking, how am I going to get him? How am I going to get him? And then he says to the king, there's some people, king, who don't honor you. They don't respect our land. They're just nasty old people, and we need to get rid of them. I think we should kill them all. And so he builds a gallows, or there's a few different interpretations. It's whether or not it's actually a spearing them, or if they're cutting off their heads, or if they're hanging them. It's kind of hard to say. But he builds a gallows out there that he's going to kill these Jews on. The problem is, the hottest babe in the kingdom, the king's wife, is a Jew. So in the end, if you're not familiar with the story, what happens here, Haman builds the gallows. I'm going to go with the gallows that we're going to hang him, just because it's a vernacular I can grab a hold of, and you can too, okay? So he's going to hang him on it. He plots to kill old Mordecai. We're going to get that guy, get rid of his fuzzy blue head. And in his plotting, Mordecai goes to Esther, and he says, Esther, you've got to save us. He's going to kill off all the Jews. He's going to kill us all. And he is. Mordecai's willing to kill every Jew in the land because he's got to get that one. That's amazing when you think about it. It's like, I'm going to commit genocide and wipe out everybody of that race because I got to kill that guy. My mom used to do that. We do something, it's a lot like my mom. Somebody would do something wrong at my house, she would spank everybody. I'm telling you, she says, I'm going to kill them all. Go on, let's see what happens. If Mark goes out and does something, she'll be beating everybody in this church. He says, I'm going to get that guy. I'm going to get him. And so Mordecai goes to Esther. Esther, you've got to get a hold of the king. You've got to tell him. You've got to tell him what's going on. You've got to save us. Esther says, if I go in before the king and I don't have permission to be there, he could kill me for it. That's a capital offense. And Mordecai says, what do you think? What do you think? You being quiet, you're going to spare your life? He's going to kill you too. You're going to go down with the rest of us. Everybody's going to die if you don't do something. Who knows? Maybe God put you right where he put you for just such a time as this. Maybe you have the king's ear at this moment so that you can affect this change. But if you don't want to, it's okay. God's will is still going to prevail. God's going to deliver us by another means. You and your family will die, but God's will still be done. I have faith in that. So Mordecai, even in the face of the fact that he might die, he had confidence that God was going to save him. You know, he said God's will prevail. And so he was good for that. And then what happens is she goes to the king. The king spares her life. He finds out about the plot against these Jews, and Esther says, there's somebody trying to kill me off. The king says, who's that? And she says, Haman. He's out to get us. And you remember my uncle spared your life? He wants to kill him too. You know, and so then Haman is like, oh, wait a minute, I'm in trouble. He sees it out. Even Haman figures out at that point that this is a mistake. That to me is the funniest part of the whole thing. He's alone with Esther. The king gets mad. He goes out, walks out of the room. He goes to get his guards. While he's out getting the guards, Haman falls on the queen's lap. Please, spare me, spare me. King comes back in, and Haman's hanging all over his wife. And he says, what, you're going to molest my wife while I'm gone? Take him out and kill him on the gallows that he built. And so Haman is actually killed on the very gallows that he built. And that's how we got rid of Brian Sluter. Thank you, guys. That's the story in a nutshell. Okay, so now you know it. I took us into chapter 3 as the story is developing. And this is where Haman is just starting to encounter all of the Mordecai. But I had to give you the whole thing. After these events, King Xerxes honored Haman, son of Hammedatha the Agagite, elevating him and giving him a seat of honor higher than that of all the other nobles. You know, when you're honored like that, he's in a position, and we talked about this in Sunday school quite a bit. When you're in a position of authority, you are actually in a position of responsibility. Do you follow that? If any of you ever gets to be president of the United States, I want you to see it as a position of responsibility, not just authority, where you have a responsibility. You have a commitment. You have an obligation to others. He saw himself as a position of authority, but neglected to see himself as a servant. All the other royal officials at the king's gate knelt down and paid honor to Haman, for the king had commanded this concerning him. But Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor. Then the royal officials at the king's gate asked Mordecai, "Why do you disobey the king's command?" Day after day they spoke to him, but he refused to comply. Therefore they told Haman about it to see whether Mordecai's behavior would be tolerated, for he had told them he was a Jew. When Haman saw that Mordecai would not kneel down or pay him honor, he was enraged. Yet having learned who Mordecai's people were, he scorned the idea of killing only Mordecai. Instead, Haman looked for a way to destroy all Mordecai's people, the Jews, throughout the whole kingdom of Xerxes. Father, I praise you for your word, and I pray that you would speak to our hearts what you have for us this morning. In Jesus' name, amen. I got to tell you something. When I look over this, I'm going to tell you some of these things that he's doing that are wrong, and it'll be a conviction to us perhaps on our own heart in the places where we disobey. But before I get into that, I got to tell you something. I need you to know this as a framing it in, because when you start looking at things that are wrong, you forget the things that are right. Do you follow what I'm saying? Sometimes when you start saying, man, I do this wrong, I do this wrong, I do that wrong, you do things that are wrong. I know that you do. You know that you do. We all know that you do. It's when I find out about it, I put it on Facebook. It's out there. Everybody knows that we do things that are wrong. But I need you to know this. You could walk perfectly. You could walk perfectly with God and never make a mistake. Do everything absolutely right. Walk a complete straight line. Do everything without any flaw whatsoever. And I need you to know this. You could do that from this point on for the rest of your life. Do everything right. You become this prayer warrior who does everything. You sell all you have and give it to the poor. You become this amazing Christian, and Billy Graham's kids come to pay homage to you. You could be so phenomenal, and God would not love you any more than he does right now. Do you understand that? You will not gain God's love on any greater scale than you already have. God is crazy about you. He loves you, and despite of all the things that you do that are dumb and all your warts and all your knot-headed things that you've got going on, he just thinks you're wild. He's wild about you. He is crazy about you. So as we look at some of this stuff and you start going, man, I do these things wrong. Yeah, you do things that are wrong, but it doesn't even matter. You're still God's kid, and he still loves you. And so I like to frame that in so that you have the reference when you take everything else in. If I say, man, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, take that in the framework of the fact that before anything else began, while we were still the enemies of God, he sent his son Jesus Christ to die for our sins. While we were still his enemies, while we were still doing everything wrong, God said, man, I love that guy. And you go, hey, he doesn't do anything right. He goes, yeah. Years ago, it was real popular. I remember, I forget, Edwards, I think, that wrote the book, Sinners in the Hands of an Angry God. And I don't like that portrayal. I don't see God as up in heaven going, man, I'm looking for a reason to get those guys. They really make me so mad. He's already got every reason to get you. We're already guilty. I mean, he doesn't have to find anything that you do wrong. It's all over the place. He goes, they do things that are wrong. Because look, all of it's wrong. But I love them. I love those guys. And so he sent his son Christ to redeem us from all of that. So I wanted to frame that before we went any further. But I tell you what I do see in ourselves, and when I look at this scripture verse, or this passage, it reminds me of the game King of the Hill. We used to play King of the Hill. I don't know if you and your siblings ever played that. We always played King of the Hill. It was one of those fun games where one kid gets up on top of a mountain of dirt, and the other kids try to knock him down. You battle to see who's going to be the king of the hill. And this is to me a spiritual game of King of the Hill, because there can only be one king of your life. Haman was confronted with that. There's only one king. Now, I mean, there's in his setting there was a physical king, but there can only be one king of your life, and there's a battle going on to see who's going to be the king of your hill. Who's going to be the king of your life? What's going to be the things that motivate you, that prompt you, that determine how you act and how you behave? What are your values, and what are they based on? Are you going to worship yourself, or do you worship God? Haman worshipped himself. He elevated himself at a level higher than God. And he got angry because Mordecai said, listen, pal, you're not God. I remember I had an old girlfriend that I broke up with years ago because we had a religious difference. She thought she was God. She may have said it about me, I don't know. But when somebody thinks that they're too much and they get a little too full of themselves, they dethrone God. Jesus Christ will not, he won't take a back seat to you. If you want to be in charge, he's just going to leave. It's like, okay, you can do it your way. He still loves you, but he won't continue to do battle with you. You'll just be on your own accord. Spiritual king of the hill. That's what I thought this one was. And Haman, when I was reading about him and I was thinking about him this week, I thought, who he reminds me of? This story. Haman, to me, is the Wile E. Coyote of bad guys in the Bible. I mean, I used to watch Roadrunner. You guys must have watched it a few times at least. I got so tired of him. I mean, after a while, I just thought, go on and kill him, Roadrunner. He's not going to learn. That guy is just so dumb. He's just going to keep on doing the same thing over and again. And he'd jump on his roller skates and strap the rocket on his back, and I thought, this isn't going to go well. It's not going to end well. He did it before, and he'd do it again and again, and a rock is going to fall on him at the end. You just go, well, I don't even know what he thinks. Every time he keeps on doing the very same thing, expecting a different result. That's Haman. And sometimes I think it's us too. Sometimes you do the very same thing, and you think this is going to turn out well, and you've watched people, and people have watched you. You get to doing something, and you're doing something that's really dumb, or somebody who does that, and you're watching them do something really dumb, and it's like watching the Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote, and you're just thinking, this is not going to go well. This is going to be a bad ending. I can see the rock falling already. You bought that from Acme, didn't you? And that's when I looked at him, I just thought, he's just doing everything goofy. In heaven's name, what am I doing? He was committed to his agenda that he will not release at any cost. So committed to his agenda, he wouldn't release it at any cost. And that's a picture of a monkey trap. They take a shiny object, put it inside of either, that one they used a coconut shell, but I've also heard it used in bottles, jugs, and stuff like that. The monkey will reach in and grab a hold of something, and he'll hang on to it. And of course, once his hand is inside, his fist is too big and he can't pull it out, but he doesn't have enough sense to let go of it, to get his hand out. We can, in our spiritual journey, we can grab onto selfish agendas and things that we shouldn't have, and then we hang on to them so tight that we become ensnared by those things, those habits, those attitudes that we shouldn't have, but we're not willing to let go of. God says, you are not snagged by me, you're not caught by me, you are caught by yourself. Haman was not caught by Mordecai, by Esther, or anybody else but himself. It was his own stubbornness, his own pride, his own arrogance that stuck him. Friends, we can get into a whole lot of trouble when we know that something is the will of God, but we will not release our own agenda, our own thing that we desire more than anything else. We can pray for stuff. Don't misunderstand me. You can pray for things, and you can pray for something that you desire from God, and you might get it. You might get it. It's always okay to ask, because God's your heavenly Father. And when you were asking your mom and your dad for stuff when you were a kid, you didn't ask them, hey, Mom, Dad, look at your financial statement and see if we can afford this. Let's check your wallet. How's the bank book going? Are we okay, Dad? Are we okay for me to get something this week? You didn't say that when you were 4. You went into the store with your mom and dad. You didn't go, Dad, how much money do you have left over after buying those things? Actually, it was probably your mom. Mom did all the grocery shopping. Mom, how much money do we have? Do we have enough money to afford a candy bar? No, you didn't do that. You went, I want a candy bar. Mom, I want a candy bar. And if they didn't do it, you try to pull on some crocodile tears, see if you can get those things going. You know, you just asked for anything that you wanted, and if they didn't want to get it for you, what did they do? No. They just said no. You know, that was all. And to me, I go, ask God for anything that you want to, but sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes the answer is no. God's goal in life is not to make your life perfect. God's ultimate concern is not to make sure that you don't ever have any problems at all. You know, it's not, okay, I'm kidding, I'm lying. Yeah, that's it. God wanted you to not have any issues at all. That's how some people seem to go through life. As Christians, they think, that God is like finding the magic genie in the lamp. You know what I mean? It's like, now that I'm serving God, I can ask for anything. He'll give it to me in His name that my joy may be full. So that means I get everything I want. That's not it. God changes your want. Do you follow that? God's desire is to change your want. Yeah, God will give you everything that you want as long as you're wanting the right stuff. As long as the things that you're wanting are not primarily things at all. As long as you're still just wanting things, good luck. God bless you. Let me know how it works out for you. I got no answer for you at all. You know, is when our goals and our ambitions are all set on below and nothing set on above, on things of a higher nature, we can expect to be disappointed. Expect to be disappointed. And Mom and I went to prison yesterday. We had to go in and check in with a parole officer, and we were there, and they were talking about this guy said that he was healed of some problems that he had. And you know, it's awesome when you pray for somebody who's sick and they get better. But I got news for you. Ultimately, you're going to pray for them and they're not going to get better. It doesn't always happen the way that we want to. Paul said, I had this thorn in my flesh. I prayed that God would take it away, but He didn't. Prayed 3 times. He never took away my thorn in the flesh, so now I'm just living with it. That's what He did for Paul. You know, people expect sometimes to be treated much better than God ever allowed the early prophets to be treated. In truth, sometimes we wanted to be treated better than He treated Jesus. We saw what happened to Jesus. He went to the cross. And if Jesus went to the cross, why are you and I not understanding that that's part of our journey as well? Why do we expect this all of a sudden to be this cakewalk? You know, everything's going to go well, and as I'm a Christian, it's all going to be peaches and cream and ice cream and candy, and I don't know. God bless you. That's all fattening. You know, it's not all that way. It's not all about what it's about. I mean, our journey has to have some depth to it. It's got to be something better than that. And it is. It is. If we can get below that surface junk and get it out of the way and stop expecting God to be the genie, we can actually get to a relationship level that's much deeper and much better and much sweeter. And that's what God has intended for each and every single one of us, that we dig a little deeper in our spiritual depth, that we get a little more conformed to the image of Jesus Christ, that we desire the heart of God. And when we get there and we discover it, we're not always there, but when you get there, you realize that you're there. Do you understand what I'm saying? Do you get it? When you get to the spot where you're supposed to be, every once in a while, ready? I'm going to say this, ready? Every once in a while, I'm a perfect Christian. Not for very long and not very often. But when it happens, I realize it. I go, oh, I'm where I'm supposed to be. This is where I'm supposed to be thinking. I figured it out. Oh, yes, I'm here. And then life goes on. You know, but you have little glimpses, little moments, a second every once in a while you go, oh, this is where I want to be all my life. It lasts about 5 minutes. But you get there. And it reminds me that that's where I want to be. Do you understand what I'm saying? Every once in a while, you get this glimpse of heaven where God just says, this is it. I think He gives those to us so that we understand. So that we understand what we're striving for. So we know what to look forward to. And so we go, that's what it got to be what it is. It doesn't always happen. But when it happens, it's really awesome. You know, when we get those glimpses of where we're supposed to be and who we're supposed to be in Jesus Christ. But He was committed to his own agenda. He wouldn't release it at any cost. He would rather self-destruct than to submit. He would rather self-destruct than submit. Ultimately, and as a result, his demise is the result of the work of his own hand. That's what happens to Haman. That's his story that we pull out of it. And of course, I have 3 very brief lessons to be learned from that. And there are 3 because I'm a Nazarene pastor. There will always be 3, not always, but most of the time there's 3. The first one, destruction is the endpoint of the arrogant. If you want to be proud, you're putting yourself right against God because God says that He's the creator of the universe. It amazes me how many people can embrace theology, philosophies aside from God. I just don't have any faith in atheism. I guess ultimately nobody's supposed to have any faith in atheism, right? I have no faith in atheism. I guess if you're an atheist, you don't have any faith in atheism either. I don't have any faith that the world could create itself. The world just created itself. Man, I'm going to tell you something. You see these glasses? These glasses, you can see how beautiful they are. They've got this decorative design, all this stuff, these glasses. If I were to tell you these glasses created themselves, there was no creator of these glasses. They just came into existence. You would say, you're fruitier than a fruitcake. And we're even getting in close to fruitcake season, too. They're being seasoned next month. You would say, those glasses are much too complex to have ever come into existence by themselves. Look at them. They've got black on them. They have this beautiful purple and black design. And then there's the magnification of that. That could not happen by accident. It couldn't happen on its own accord. It couldn't happen by accident. If I just sat down and I said, well, okay, I just created them, but I created them by accident. I really didn't mean to. I was trying to write a letter, and I made these glasses. You would say, you couldn't do that. That's ridiculous. How dumb do you think that I am? And then I say, you think that the whole world came into existence on its own accord and by accident? Really? Really? You really believe that? That it was just a happenstance? It just happened? I can't believe these glasses happened by accident. These are much too complex. And the complexity of the world? Watch this. I'm going to show you a miracle. Ready? I did that with the power of my mind. Don't mess with me. I just willed it, and my hand just opens and closes. I just think it, and the neurons move, and all of that happens. That's a miracle. It's a miracle. It's just phenomenal. I just look at the world around us, and I see so many miracles on a nonstop basis. You want to find? Let me give you one that science can't explain. You ready? Gravity. Gravity. We have no idea why it works. You can figure it out. You can write it up. You can make a mint. If you can figure out why opposites attract, you can retire tomorrow. Nobody understands. We don't understand. God created the world in such a fashion. I love the song we were singing, Heather, that God created it that way. He designed it, and by His purpose, that's the way that it is. It's the will of God. And when God wills it, it happens. Destruction is the end point of the arrogant. People who want to set their mind against God's will, you're in a bad spot. Here's the second part. Ready? Discipline is a part of every person's journey. Every person is going to be disciplined. You're going to be disciplined either by yourself or by others, or maybe ultimately by God Himself. You will find discipline in one form or another. You will be disciplined. People who don't discipline their children raise their children up so that their children can be disciplined by their teachers, by all of the administration, ultimately by the police and society as a large. We will find discipline. You will find discipline. If you can find self-discipline, that's really nice. If you yield to God's discipline, it's also very wise. But if you don't want to yield to those, you can find discipline somewhere else. And the last one, God's anointed will prevail. God's anointed will prevail. We find Haman on the losing side, but on the winning side, we find those who have aligned themselves and allied themselves with the will of their Heavenly Father. And friends, you have victory. It's yours in Jesus Christ if you want it. If you want it. If you want it. If you want to be blind, nobody can stop you from that. But if you want to be allied with God and you want to be on the winning side, then we have an advocate with the Father who assures it, the fact that we're going to be victorious in Jesus Christ.
Thanks for joining us today. You can find Ustick Road Church of the Nazarene on the web at usticknaz.org and on many social media sites at usticknaz. Thanks, and God bless.